Okay. All right, good evening, everybody. We'll call the Energy Committee meeting of March 27th, 2024 to order at 6:32. Per the agenda, first thing is public comment. Do you have anybody online for that?
Nobody is online yet.
Are you here for public comment or are you here to observe?
What's the rest of the agenda?
Mostly it deals with, well, there's a number of things beyond our normal minutes, a grant that's coming up. And then, most of this has to do with the energy plan. The revision.
Which part?
We're still on transportation right now.
And then going to building.
Into building energy, yes.
Okay, this has to do with building energy, so.
Okay, so you'll
hold my comment.
you'll hold it, okay.
We could probably get over here. Over there?
Wow. We have a full committee here.
I think
In person, yes. Very nice to meet. Nobody on Zoom, nobody traveling.
That's a first.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, so the minutes, please.
Okay.
Okay, so beyond approving the previous ones, we mostly talked about the enhanced energy plan, which are noted in the plan with all the addendums that are in there. Beyond that, Matt gave an update on the LEAP workshop. And we briefly discussed the Next Living Green article. And we had a long meeting that didn't get done till almost 8:30. Any comments on the minutes? No? Do I have a motion to adopt as presented?
I'll move to adopt the minutes as
presented. All right, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes as presented, say aye. Aye.
Abstain.
So 6 ayes, 1 abstention, and no others voting against. They are approved. Thank you. All right. Going back to the agenda, next is the CBG grant, which Melinda sent us a copy of. Is this a draft or is this gone?
Well, this has gone to the select board. They approved the proposal. This is the second time that it went to the select board. The first time we had proposed electric mower and like a pilot EV for cross departmental use. Vetoed the EV. And they instead, Todd had this idea to get a electric robot that lines the fields, the recreation fields. Currently there's a gas powered robot line marker, I mean, not a robot, gas powered field marker that uses like a ridiculous amount of labor, and also uses fuel. And the proposal is to replace that with an electric robot that basically program in a soccer field and you just send it on its merry way and it just lines the fields.
It's a Roomba, but for placing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So the select board really like that, they approved it. And then what is still sort of remaining to be decided is, so, you know, besides purchasing the mower, electric mower, the robot, and some assorted hand tools, like weed whacker, electric weed whacker, chainsaws, and a leaf blower. There was about 20,000 or so left over, and we're proposing to use that for some kind of technical assistance. And that's the remaining decision point that we have to make, is just what kind of technical assistance. I mean, we don't have to make a decision like today about that, but I wanted to get your sense of your highest priorities for that. And then I'm working right now with some technical assistance provider to basically give us some guidance on what we can get for $20,000 and what of these projects are like sort of feasible, like coming up with a reasonable scope of work for that. So that's why I had you fill out the survey about priorities, and I can share the results with that. Happily, everybody filled it out. And here's the responses. Okay, here we go. I can make that a little bigger, I think. Great.
So some consensus.
Yeah, so it seems like, according to this anyway, that there was a lot of consensus for internal municipal revolving loan fund for energy efficiency and renewable energy projects. So what this would do is help us develop a framework for that. It wouldn't actually establish the loan fund, but it would basically tell us how to go about doing that and kind of, you know, I mean, I think as an internal municipal revolving loan fund, basically it would be an accounting mechanism. And basically, like, right now, we have invested in 2 solar arrays. After a period of time, they're going to start making a net money, you know, a net, whatever. Profit, I guess, is the way you could put it, for the town. And with the idea that we keep track of that, how much money the town's getting from that, and we put it into this fund to use for future projects. And not just to be ignored as, like, yeah, this is saving the town money, but, you know, we're not really gonna, you know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
the idea. It seems like there were 4 people that ranked it as a top priority. And then, you know, third, fourth, and yeah, second, third, and fourth priorities. Beyond that, there seemed to be some support for LED lighting bid specifications for police, fire station, library, and town hall annex. And then analysis of rooftop solar and battery storage system for Central School, Allenbrook School, and or fire station. And then this evaluating opportunities for thermal energy networks in the village or tap corners, didn't seem like it was high on folks' list. One person, I don't think anybody ranked it as their top priority. One person ranked it as their second, one person the third, fourth as the fourth priority. And then there were a few other projects that were mentioned, but keeping in mind that this is a technical assistance project, one mentioned funding window dressers inserts for low-income households. That's not really technical assistance. EV charging station at Tap Corners, Maple Tree Place. I think we should be getting some assistance from Drive Electric Vermont to do further EV planning over the summer. So that's something we're already gonna get through another resource. So.
Wanda, maybe we covered this at a previous meeting, but do you have any, is there any specific feedback from the select board about the EV, but they did not like the idea?
They didn't like the idea because it would be
To buy
an EV.
general EV for use of town employees for town business.
Town vehicles.
Yeah.
Did
It would
the
just
select
be-
board voted against that recently? So is it-
Yeah, so it would be, so when we brought our first proposal for use of this grant, it did include buying an EV that any department staff could use, if they were doing, you know, I had to go somewhere or doing field work or whatever. And one person well, two people spoke out sort of against it. One person said that they didn't like the idea because it wasn't a vehicle that we already had. It would be adding a new vehicle that we didn't already have.
Oh, it's
And
not replacing.
It's not replacing,
Right.
and
Oh, okay.
they were concerned, like when I added up how much miles were driven by staff, you know, when I added up the mileage reimbursements, it was like 4,000 miles a year that were being reimbursed, so it didn't seem like they were reluctant to spend money on a vehicle that would get that little use. And because it was a new vehicle, that was sort of the reason
Yeah,
for that.
cause that 4,000 is maybe 2,500 in reimbursement then,
Uh,
4,000
60
miles.
something.
yeah,
Yeah,
something like
66,
that, yeah.
2,400 miles,
Yeah.
$2,400, so you have a fairly long payback on an EV.
Yeah. I mean, the payback in this case was not really the issue because we were getting grant funds to do it, so it wasn't,
Right.
but, you know, I guess they just wanted to make sure that the grant funding was spent, like, was leveraged, I don't know, as much as possible
Yeah.
to do something, be worthwhile, so.
It's a valid point because there's also a carbon impact when you add new rather than.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's-
yeah,
And also considering the inefficiency and pollution from smaller engines like leaf blowers,
right, yeah.
trimmers and stuff, it's better to replace those with the down and the noise factor on top.
And those are used almost constantly.
Yeah.
They probably get more use than the town.
Yeah.
I think
Makes
this
a lot of sense.
I think this is great because if you look at what's approved, we've been talking about these kinds of things and writing about them for a year and a half now or
Yeah.
more, almost 2 years. And suddenly we never wrote about having a tiny line marker, but you know, it's pretty cool, you know, it's
Yeah. I
to
mean,
suddenly have you know, a demonstration that the town is taking that leap of faith to buying these.
right,
So-
and, you know, for, as far as the marker goes, I know this isn't about people labor and saving people labor, but basically, I calculated the number of hours that, you know, the current system uses up, and it's basically takes one person's time for 7 weeks to mark all the fields using the current system. And it was, I mean, it would save that.
Yeah.
It's gonna pay for
Which
itself
is
in a
nuts.
year.
Yeah.
The payback is
It's 29,000.
Gosh, that thing is.
I was just asking,
Philippines over somebody.
EV, just,
Yeah,
if there's any feedback that might influence how we want to position something in the future, it's got nothing to do with the fact that it's an EV,
I wanna
it's
see.
no,
just like not worth buying another vehicle from town.
right, that was what I was hearing.
So there's no vehicle they can replace with an EV?
Nope. And, I think that Eric seems open to, making, sort of pushing that a little bit and making departments more accountable for their, vehicle purchases and like you said, Kevin, having to justify, you know, or just having to look closely at the costs and the, you know, the energy efficiency.
Not to get super off track, but there was only one vehicle in the capital budget this year that's up for replacement. I think it was the Tahoe, one of the Tahoes, in the
Tahoe,
fire
yeah.
department. Do you know what the decision was? Cause they were considering
Right.
EVs. I just didn't know how far they.
Um,
The budget didn't pass, so they haven't done anything yet. right?
Yeah, right, I don't know where they landed on that, I know that the chief was open to getting an EV.
Yeah.
They had concerns about running all their equipment, for extended, incidents that might happen, they need to keep the vehicles running all the time. I think that, I mean, what I suggested to Eric is that if we're able to like loan a vehicle from another town, like Burlington has like 35 EVs right now. If we can like borrow one for a week to test it out. and then just have the fire department and then maybe police department run some rigorous testing on it. You know, just like try running their equipment off of a charged battery and see how long it runs. I mean, I've heard, you know, anecdotally through the other cities that equipment can literally run for days. And, so it's a matter of
Commercials,
confidence, right?
that's what the commercials claim, because they have the house plug into the
Yeah.
F-150
Yeah,
Lightning.
Ford Lightning has 120, I think even a 240 outlet in the back. They can run
Uh-huh.
far more than they can run out of a Tahoe today.
Yeah, okay,
And probably run it for a long
Yeah.
time.
yeah, I would think so, but
I think
again,
the bigger concern, are they towing anything with it? Cause that, I think, is what tends to.
Yeah,
drain
well,
power faster.
right, and they may be, I mean, I don't know about fire so much, I mean, Public Works certainly would be towing stuff. But fire,
I would think they're just there to respond and carry equipment.
I think.
So they're throwing within town, or, I mean, at worst, within the county, right? I mean, they're
Well,
probably not. making-
They do a lot of mutual aid
Yeah,
throughout the county.
they do, yeah, they do mutual aid, so it could be that they're traveling, to,
Sure, but like even what you think of the fire department towing the trailer with their, they call it the ute, the ATV, that big
yeah,
off-road thing they've got.
right.
To Milton.
I'm sure you could go Montpelier and back without a problem with that, right? So
Yeah,
it would be, like, I like the idea of having them just get their hands on one for like a week or a weekend.
yeah.
It's like an EV, like the EV,
Ambassador.
yeah, like an EV ambassador program among the towns. That's like,
Yeah.
that's the whole
So
idea.
it's gonna bring this up later, the Vermont AOT, Agency of Transportation, they had a Facebook post about all of the electrification they've done. And
Yeah,
they're running 3 or 4 Ford Lightnings, they've got some, I think, heavier equipment as well. Maybe it's an excavator, it's electric. It'd be really interesting to see if we can source feedback from towns and state
Yeah.
agencies that do this.
yeah,
And
Green
bring it
Mountain
in
Power.
as a,
Yeah, GM.
They allegedly
Yeah.
have 40, what was it? Did you hear this? Tim?
Yeah, something
It's
crazy.
like 40 F-150 Lightnings. They,
GMP does.
yeah, they apparently, right when it was announced, just bought a bunch of them because they have them as as their like fleet now. So and I mean, they're doing, I imagine they are carrying heavy equipment in those
mhm.
trucks and doing some, unconventional things with them, so that might
Who is
be a
this?
good. Green Mountain Power.
Yeah.
They've also some heavy duty vehicles as well, like
Mhm.
line trucks, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Those, I don't know what those are,
They
Like,
do have a full line truck that's pure electric.
really?
Yeah, yeah,
That is,
it's monstrous and I've. seen
That's
it, yeah,
cool.
yeah. Well, I still think this is really. We had like 20,000 left for the technical, so for
22.
55,000, we have. Made a leap of faith to get into the electric for the town, you know.
Mona, do we need to vote on this, or is, like, how do we proceed?
Well, so you could take, you could take I guess, a vote, and maybe take a vote for first choice, second, and then third, I guess. If that
And-
makes sense.
can we don't just have to present one, right? We can say, here's our order of preference and give reasonings why for the select board, or what would be the tactic here?
You know, I'm not even, to be honest, I'm not even sure that the select board is gonna weigh in on this, but they might, but yeah, I would just. I think that sounds reasonable. I don't think you have to go into a lot of detail, but, and. I think take a vote on first choice and a vote, maybe just a vote on second choice. And we can go from there.
So that third one over was the revolving loan fund,
Yeah.
which 4 out of,
I mean, I
4
think
out of 7.
Well, it looks like we've already voted here. I mean,
you
that's
kind of
okay.
have already
Yeah.
voted,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Well, there's kind of a tie between 1 and 2, though. Between develop, the LED and the scoping study for the rooftop solar, because it's kind of a
right,
toss up there.
between 2 and 3. I mean, I guess, this would be, I guess, a clear way of doing it. If you wanted to say like, So I could go through each of those and say, if this is your first choice, raise your hand, sort of thing. And knowing what you know and do this. Does that make sense?
So this is just, again, to do the study, to do something.
To do, yeah, to get technical assistance to help us, like, well, the lighting specs would be to do the lighting specs. And to be honest, I'm not sure if they'll deliver that service, but they might. But beyond that, yeah, these are studies, or, you know, the revolving loan fund is gonna be more of like a, you know, kind of helping us set it up kind of thing.
So if you apply like ranked, like.
Ranked choice voting.
Yeah, if you do that, it actually ends up that my math is correct.
Mhm,
Assuming 5 points for first place, 4 for second,
mhm.
it's really close. So revolving loan fund, I think ends up at like 27, and then the other two on the left are like 26. So it's all fairly close.
Mhm. So maybe is the consensus that the revolving loan fund is kind of the first choice?
I don't have a problem with that. It wasn't my first choice, but I think I think 4 votes for that to be number one.
Yeah,
I mean, I kind of felt like that would lead to more
yeah,
More value.
value
high
down the
impact.
road.
Yeah.
Than the others that are more of like a one-time.
right,
And it'll teach us
So-
how to do it so that we can then figure out how to fund it, or they'll probably tell us like different ways, like you said, with the solar, that where the money we're
Right.
saving and all
I
that,
mean,
and they'll-
yeah. Mhm.
So it kind of just, it doesn't do it for us, but it kind of gives us.
It's
a
sustainable,
manual. Yeah.
It's a gift
sustainable
from something.
financing,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I would say those who feel their revolving loan fund would be our first recommendation. You raise our hands to see if we have consensus then.
Sure.
So that's, okay.
Yeah.
And then for second, LED lighting bid specifications.
Can I ask a question about these two, just to get some clarification?
Sure.
So I saw these two as very close, the next two, the battery and this,
Mhm.
because they both have potential to, one, to produce electricity more sustainably, and one, to reduce unsustainable electricity use.
Uh-huh.
But it sounded like you had made a comment about the LED thing that may not be a service they provide, or it may. Like, can you explain more what might, if it may not, like, if there's a reason that wouldn't fit as well with this grant?
Well, so we're getting the technical assistance through NREL,
Mm-hmm.
and so developing bid specifications, that's a very on-site activity, like, they're gonna have to go through the buildings, come up with design, lighting designs and all this other stuff. And I just don't know if they get that site-specific with their services. I don't know, maybe they do, but it's a question mark. So I wouldn't necessarily rule that out, because if it is your second choice and they don't do it, then you just, I mean, my sense is that they probably, if you have a first choice, they could probably do that. I don't know if it's gonna cost $22,000, you might be able to get some more work done. So I don't know,
And it's just LED lighting, it's not the overall energy usage of the police department?
no, because we're already getting an audit done for that. And, so, we will be getting a report on that. They just did the audit the other day on the police and fire stations. We'll be getting a report in a couple of months. So. it
Is there
might-
overlap with that in the LED?
It overlaps some, but we're not gonna get detailed bid specifications from this audit. We're gonna get some general recommendations. Like, replace the lighting with LEDs. Like, we already know that, but what we need is, like, I don't have the skills to be able to do lighting design and develop a set of, like, bid specifications. So we need somebody who can do that, and then we need to, to bid it out.
What did you hire an engineer for?
right, an engineer or lighting designer.
Yeah.
So,
And what's the other one?
and the other one is scoping, study or site analysis of rooftop solar and battery storage for either the schools or the fire station or whatever we could get, you know.
Powerwall or some sort of whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, really focusing on that rooftop, on the solar. And some, you know, need some information about that.
So partly I would assume be a comparison study to see where maybe the best production or the best site would be, or are we choosing a site to have studied specifically?
Well, I would say either of these three sites, maybe they could do like a really high level analysis, like a really high level thing on all of them. And then just focus on one if one looks better than the others.
Is there an conflict or an issue with this grant, which belongs to the town, and doing it for the school district, which we don't own?
I don't think so, not as far as technical assistance. I think if we were installing solar,
Yeah,
definitely would be, yeah, something.
and this is also something where, especially if you're talking about battery storage, you might get GMP,
Yeah.
give you input too,
Mhm.
that if we don't choose this one, then we might have other places where we can get assistance to possibly.
Possibly,
I mean, GMP's. I know. The one conversation I've had with them, they're very willing to come in and look at. The storage and,
Mhm.
you know, municipal, efficiencies and, resiliency.
Would we be displacing any, like diesel generators in any of those locations?
I don't know, probably. Fire station, certainly, I imagine they have a diesel generator there, actually, I'm not sure if they are diesel, I think it's gas,
Well,
but still.
Either way, I mean, I'm just trying to like weigh the,
Right,
I tend to bias toward, working consumption side first, right? Which would lead me to the LED.
LEDs.
I think it'd be awesome to see more solar, and I'd love to see all of those groups have a resilience plan that's battery based instead of,
Mhm.
generator based, but for the amount of time I expect those generators would run. Yeah, I tend to be more. Consumption side first, including energy efficiency, electrification,
Uh-huh.
and then generation side, especially given the overall. Grid in Vermont right now it's not like we're displacing coal,
Uh-huh,
right?
yeah,
Do we know if, who owns the buildings, the school buildings? Does town own the buildings or?
no,
That's
school
the
district.
school district.
So these are gonna be recommendations to the, so instead of going to be a recommendation to the school district, we would have no real enforcement at all, or?
Well, no, we wouldn't have any enforcement if we did a scoping study, we would, first of all, before we even did that, I would wanna get their buy-in.
Mhm.
And, you know, a certain amount of, you know, sort of, I don't know, at least know that they were very interested in it. And then, yeah, then if they got the scoping study, then there's no, you know, guarantee that they're gonna go and install solar.
With the budget
Fire
problems they're
stations.
having too.
Yeah.
More than likely.
Yeah, I kind of, think Kevin's input about on the consumption side, you know, trying to cut costs, especially with, in my opinion, with the buildings the town does own. You know,
Well, if
fire
you,
and police.
Yeah.
if you did the fire station too, I'm thinking about what has high demand for energy. If we did go the solar or battery route, fire station would probably, it's
Yeah,
also south facing, isn't it?
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
kind of nice.
a flat roof,
Yeah.
you know, plus all, I mean, you could put it on the metal, on the standing seam roof too.
And that's gonna be a place that has pretty constant demand, whereas the school during the school year, sure, but when solar's gonna be producing, it's probably actually.
The summer, yeah.
There's the least amount of demand, so a lot of that's just gonna go into the grid, which isn't a problem either.
Yeah,
But, and it could present an interesting educational opportunity if the kids are allowed to see the batteries or something, I don't know, that's a bit of a stretch, but.
I mean, if we went with the scoping study for the solar and battery, I would definitely wanna see that focus on the fire department.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
so
I just don't
Yeah.
know that like, we look. Whether it's cost and then the payback period or the carbon emission difference of them running on solar versus GMP. Just don't know that it's
yeah,
significant.
I mean, yeah, I think it would. Yeah, I don't know, you're right, that,
But it would be, they'd have power if there was something happened and the town lost power, the fire department, you'd want them powered up.
Oh, but that was my question, with the generators,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
but this way they would have power and generate power.
Yeah.
too.
I'm sure,
Hmm.
I'm sure they have diesel generators on state.
mhm,
And the batteries could also be used as a feed back to the grid at high use time to cut the
right.
rate.
Yeah,
GMP loves to talk about that.
Yeah.
but don't companies offer, wouldn't they wanna like do a bid, come in and say, oh, well, we can do this? I don't know, to pay for a separate scoping study, it's almost like when you say. If the school reached out to some common can come in and just do an estimate without having a scoping study. I mean, if you have to go out with a bid with specs, then that's a different story, but.
I know, but GMP would be more than happy to come in
And do.
and talk big battery stuff. with
Right,
any of
so
those.
it might not be necessary to do the scoping.
That's a good point.
I mean, it might just be. If we sort of dropped it down a little bit, it could just be. Developing bid specs if we decided like. We're interested in investigating solar for the fire department, if we were gonna put out a bid, what would that look like, just helping us like get that. Ready, it's definitely a. Far less intense, than doing the scoping study, but, I don't know,
How
Does the
likely is
fire-
it to do both?
do both, for both of them.
Well, actually, I guess if we go with the revolving loan fund. Investigation, whatever, do you think that would eat up the full 20K?
I have no idea, so I put the question out there, I said, these are, 4 ideas. Tell me, what we can get for $20,000, and my sense is that we're not gonna get a huge amount, I think that probably Enroll's kind of expensive, I don't know,
So they'd be doing the work,
yeah.
and are
Yeah.
the ones who would, okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
Is the fire department amenable to having the solar and battery?
they sounded like it, I mean, I don't know about the battery, but the solar, they were, they sounded like that.
You may not know until you offer it to them, until
Really
you
go
bring it
together,
up,
though.
yeah.
Yeah,
Don't they go
Okay.
together,
So,
battery and solar?
Yes, solar could just go straight to the grid, it doesn't have to have
Yeah,
that.
then-
The battery does need the solar.
Yeah, then they wouldn't have backup.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it depends on how they set it up, like, if you do it the GMP route where you're really only storing. For an emergency or otherwise they're taking it from your batteries whenever they want to essentially.
Right.
Or it could be a totally isolated system if they wanted it. I think you just end up paying more for the batteries, cause if you agree to allow GMP to take it from your batteries, then they. Pay for
Then they
the part.
benefit.
Subsidized, so-
There's a subsidy, I don't know what the current is, but it used to be like, you rent it from us. Rather than having to pay the cost of
The
it.
GMP.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is it still that way?
They had 2 programs, if you buy the battery outright, they'll give you a certain amount per kilowatt that you commit to them.
Yeah.
We did 2 batteries at 27 kilowatts, and I think we get about $8,000 back. So I think it was like $800 per
That's nice.
kilowatt, something like that.
Yeah, what does a Tesla wall cost right now, a single
In the $10,000 to $15,000 install range,
one? That's what I was thinking, okay.
probably a little lower. I mean, we had that in 2020. That's when everything was the most expensive, but.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think the scoping, yeah, a company could do that. I don't know that we have to have anything in place for that. We just ask for estimates. And whereas doing, LEDs or making the buildings more efficient is something you can by doing that, you can justify getting the work done. You should say, look, if we change over, our long-term costs are gonna be much lower than if we just do nothing.
I mean, we've
And so
already,
you can get something done.
yeah, we've done that part of it,
Ah,
but we need to develop detailed steps.
Okay.
well, then I think we should move on it.
Yeah.
To get
So-
going on
Yeah.
efficiency.
So for the sake of time, it's been a really good discussion. So we need to prioritize second and then maybe third or just. So could you float over the wording, please?
So do you wanna just,
So those in favor of developing LED lighting bid specifications for police or fire or other town buildings as a second priority, raise your hand.
I think that makes sense.
okay,
That was easy.
I guess that's it, okay.
okay,
It's nice being all in one room.
and that's
Yeah.
gonna be, so that's. If they're able to develop a revolving loan fund, that's where the money will go. And then the second option is if there's leftover or they, for whatever reason, can't do number one.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
And then the third option would be the.
Let's go.
it's a rooftop scoping, and then we could still say this should be for the fire station.
Well, yeah, we're
or-
biased towards the fire station.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm pretty sure we can get that done for free.
Who has charge over the running of these buildings?
what's that?
Who has charge of
Who
running
has
these
charge?
in terms of whether you replace maintenance and thinking down the road of what's gonna happen, upgrading.
Unfortunately, it's very uncoordinated. To the best of my knowledge, the police department manages their facilities, the fire department manages their facilities, and then everything else is managed by the Department of Public Works.
So they have a capital improvement
They,
plan?
they
for
do,
upgrading?
yeah, everybody's got a capital improvement plan.
So is this anywhere in there changing out these lights?
Yeah, it is. It's in the fire and police and the annexes, capital improvement, budgets
For, just long term,
for.
like,
the-
like not like in the
Well,
coming year.
we did a capital improvement, sheet for the next 5 years, so technically. In 5 years, we should be able to do all this.
And
Maybe
this-
soon.
This would defray the cost of that.
No, well,
I mean, 'cause
Not
you need,
really.
you need to plan it any, like that money to do the planning.
yeah, that's
design.
not included in the cost of
Oh,
the
it's
capital
not.
budget, so we would definitely need to do that. Before we could implement.
But there could be IRA money too that helps move it along quicker next year or something.
I'm not sure about that for LEDs, because at this point, you know, it's like it's no longer like this, you know, innovative, like, it's like most people have already done it.
Well, and when does it go into effect? We can't buy these lights here
No,
anymore.
we can't buy these lights, so,
It's almost,
yeah,
if fire in Vermont, so you're going to New Hampshire.
Anyway.
yeah, that's really shady if you're in town doing that. It's fine if you're like.
I didn't say it was.
Yeah.
You can use a hybrid.
I don't think that would offset.
Strike that from the minutes. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Melinda, for putting that together. That was very excellent. All right, enhanced energy plan. Our last meeting, we spent a really long time. I think most of these edits are yours, Melinda, and the remainder of them.
Yeah, I went through and did a
There's
lot
a
of
lot
editing.
of editing, which is great.
So let's
So-
see.
So,
And so on transportation, for the municipal automobile EVs,
Mhm.
we say, I think was it 10%, I forget what the numbers are, but it just seems having the 2050 for 100%. It seems like the car turnover should be faster than that. And that, you know, could we move in the deadline for that?
This 211, the replacing the municipal light duty vehicle one, or?
Yeah, so it's increase the share of light duty, so this is, I'm assuming, I'm talking about municipal, not, so I think that's the last bullet, right?
Well, yeah, but the 2050 reference was in the local objectives up at the top,
Right, but.
right?
89.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is, those are the two markers that we're using, but I just thought that, you know, we don't
Wait,
we don't have to be that rigid, right? We can just put the town on notice that we want, it should be done, can be done quicker.
Melinda, those numbers two were from CCRPC though, right?
Yeah.
Or from the state?
From CCRPC, from the LEAP analysis, I believe. And those targets may change based on whatever data.
So we just inherit those.
Yeah.
I mean, it is very, very difficult working in the auto industry to see that number and put any credence in that.
Yeah.
2050, 2040. Yeah, it's gonna be a lot sooner than 2050.
Mhm.
Right,
There are
that's,
OEMs who are calling for being fully electric by 2035.
that's what the town can do, that's 11 years from now. The car turnover is not, you know, for municipal, car, it's not 11 years, probably, it's.
What is the standard
5 or 6?
depreciation time for a car or a vehicle used by the town? What's the time that they use for depreciation?
I'm not sure. I know that the life cycle here is about 7 to 8 years.
Okay, so that's probably shorter than the average person too. Because.
the average car lifestyle, our individual basis is 9 years.
Really, it's that
Yeah.
short?
I realize it's 16 years away, but if we have not replaced 100% of our light duty vehicles municipally by 2040, I'll buy you all a few rounds of drinks. I just don't think there's gonna be, it's gonna have to be like really specific exceptions that we would keep going.
Right, so
after
that's
that.
why I just like to get reality into this document, not just be, oh, we have to say 2050, because that's what Lottie says, let's, you know, let's make good.
Yeah, there's no
what
reason
option-
light duty can't be replaced, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to, town should be an set example.
So what
Not
year do
put
you
it
want to
off
put
till
in there?
2040 to start doing it.
For bullet,
What year do you want to put in?
for bullet 4, I would say 2040.
Okay. Everybody in agreement
That's
on that?
great, yes.
Okay.
Careful. Don't delete the whole thing.
Okay. Actually, I should be reviewing. Okay.
I know, I did some edits in there and had it on rock one, and it changes colors and.
Can I ask about that 96% figure?
Heavy duty, I don't know. It was just.
But again, when down
You
to
can ask me, but I
CCRPC,
can't give you.
It was just so specific, so I was
That
curious.
came from about
We have
4 years
100
ago.
cars,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
100 heavy duty, yeah, we don't have 100 heavy duty ones, we have like 4. So you
Yeah.
can get like 25%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
20%
That's a hard thing
Folks
to
ready to
do.
move on?
Yeah.
I did you see my email from late this afternoon?
Yes, I
Yes,
did.
okay. So, which one is? Are we still in?
So I think the last time we left off at around.
Oh, that's right, they
there
were all
only-
1.1.
There were only a few bullets left in the transportation section. So I think we left out in this.
Well, I had a problem with, I think, who's assigned.
Make that bigger.
Okay,
Sure.
so,
Yes.
so 2.12 is okay, because it says Energy Committee and Planning Commission is responsible. But I thought some of them was the town
Yeah, I
administrator
went in and changed some of those,
just today.
based,
So-
yeah, based on
Okay.
your feedback.
Yeah.
Um. So basically. Explore a tiered electric transportation rebate program. I just crossed that out because. The state and utilities have rebate programs. So, you know, rather than the town reinventing the wheel and trying to come up with a rebate program.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think the industries and the states are gonna be so far ahead of us for
Yeah.
that.
And then, periodically evaluate and revise as needed the town's official map. To ensure it's adequate to address greater need to conserve energy.
All right, and last time we talked about, having a, LTS, level of traffic stress, I think it is, study to be done to find out, you know, where the pinch points are and where.
Yeah.
I don't know if that ended up in here, I forgot, I read it today.
Yeah, that could be part of this. I wanna see if. Let's see.
I read it being somewhere.
I don't know if I actually wrote in, this. Do you want me to put it in
Yeah,
this
maybe
one?
12, isn't 12, yeah, prioritize, maybe right at the end there, it says prioritize creating paths to support commuting with secondary benefit of, and have a
Conduct a level of,
I think we're gonna get local motion to do a level of traffic stress. So LTS is the abbreviation.
What does that actually do? It's a,
It's like a color coded map where if, there's a place where it's like, you can see where the traffic flows and then where it can't get across. So like getting across I-89 or on a road with no shoulder, basically that's it. So it's, if you're comfortable riding, I think that's LTS 4. You're really comfortable, or you have a rec path.
this is a bike.
For bicycle or even pedestrian.
Yeah.
And then if it's, if there's no shoulder at all, that's LTS 1, I believe that's the order it goes. So,
One is
and
high
what it
stress.
actually points, it ends up showing pinch points where there's, you could have a path, but then there's something tough to get through that scares people and that's why you don't get
The whole thing.
riders.
Crossing 89 by 2 p.m.
Yes.
Or 2A near, all the stores. Yeah.
I did have a question about this. Is there any way, and this might be too far down the road or something, but is there a minimum design standard for pedestrian and bike infrastructure? Because there's one thing to put in a bike lane, it's another thing to put in a protected bike lane. It's a different level to put in like a multi-use path, and I'm wondering if there's,
V-Trans has standards for that.
is that? I mean, does that guide how does Williston choose what to put in? Although I guess it's not all the roads are ours though either, right?
Yeah, so the town would choose what to put in based on a scoping study. That basically looks at the feasibility of different options and the feasibility and the cost and the benefits of different options. And so the preferred alternative might end up being, a on-road path. It might end up being an off-road path, a shared use. But it depends on the results of, whatever study that they undertake, and they look at all kinds of different factors, including ownership, including, natural resources, including, I don't know, public input.
Is it feasible to like maybe using this LTS assessment to say like the minimum design standard, I don't know what the technical term would be, but like the minimum standard that we're going to have is like a level 4 or some, or not 4, but maybe 3 or something for pedestrian and bike infrastructure?
Yeah, and that would be good if we could come up with something like that, to say that,
I don't know if it.
because right now the roads are.
I think it really,
Our roads are not, like Mountain View Road, a lot of people would love to ride that, but it's so dangerous.
I think it really depends on the site specific conditions, and I don't think, I certainly think in a document like this, that you would want to, I don't know, I think there's,
Is that too overly
I
restrictive?
think it's too overly restrictive.
Okay.
Is there anything we could put in here that would meaningfully change? Well, is there anything we could put in a document that would meaningfully impact how the town treats future work on Mountain View, Oak Hill Road, Old Creamery, South Rail? I'm thinking of roads that are terrifying to bike on now.
Yeah.
And whether or not anything we put in here is actually going to have a meaningful difference, like
Yeah, like if we say a minimum
We put something-
standard of 3, will they just never do it then?
Yeah, I
Probably
want,
because it's
what if
not
we do that
feasible.
to be meaningful and to have an impact, and if the reality of the situation is that nothing we put in here is gonna change
I think we're
safety
getting,
on like Oak Hill.
yeah, I think that we're getting into transportation chapter territory. I mean, so some of energy stuff deals with, but when you're talking about, standards and safety standards, it's sort of really straying into transportation.
Oh, you mean their own chapter?
Yeah.
Within
Yeah,
the
so,
town
which you
plan.
can certainly have input into, but I think it's gonna be repetitive if we put the same, just say.
There's my feeling is, and it's probably ideal, it's just a dream, that all streets should be complete streets,
Mhm,
not just, the town.
right,
It should be, because, Oak Hill Road's a great way for kids to go to school and to high school
Right.
kids. No more dangerous than them driving 50, 60 miles an hour in a private car.
So what is the feedback mechanism, like if the Safe Routes to School group or the Bike Ped group wanted to try and have an impact, is that planning commission that owns that? Public
so,
Works, who owns that chapter?
so the planning commission is
Okay,
writing that chapter, so, I mean, if you wanna give feedback now, cause we have, teams that are working on chapters right now, you should send it to me or Matt,
okay.
and then we'll pass it to the team that's doing that.
So Kevin, let's bring that up to both. You just sent the email today about the Bike Ped, or yesterday about the
Yeah,
Bike Ped.
yeah.
But let's also bring that up to Amy for the Safe Routes to School. And if we can get both of those groups to, with support from local motion, others to put together some specific statement to,
Like
To plan it.
as going towards some kind of pointing towards some kind of standard.
Yeah.
That we'd like to have.
Even if you don't say that, set a minimum, say that, the safest possible or the most improved or the least stress or whatever the technical term would be, option, needs to be explored for feasibility or something. You could do something more.
Yeah, we have the task force, the Bike Ped task force, to meet on Monday, hopefully.
I would just, something along the lines of, any improvement to town roads must take into account the safety of non-vehicle
Yeah.
users.
Mhm.
Right, and it does,
Like focus on the outcome, like we
Yeah.
want people to be safe
right,
Mhm.
using the street.
Yeah,
and, and it needs to be, should be reviewed. each road improvement should be reviewed for safety or something like that.
So,
Mhm. Mhm.
So we'll talk about that Monday.
did we confirm that Monday time?
Well, if Kevin was the only holdout, I had.
So
I'll-
keep in mind,
Go
What?
for it.
Take
Yeah,
it.
I'll make it work.
you're limited to 3 members.
Right, and we have 4 now, so Matt, well, we'll see if Kevin or Matt can work it out.
We can only have 3 members
Yeah,
here?
because you can't have a majority,
Alright.
otherwise you have to warn your meeting.
I'm at best of maybe, so it's probably the 3 of you then.
Well, and Matt's difficult because it's during daytime meeting and he's working.
Yeah, well, it's mine.
Across town, so. Um,
All
so
right,
yeah, between the 2 of you, we have to work out who's gonna be on.
Okay.
I don't want to hold up the top kid.
okay, so, this next one. Identify and prioritize key areas where improvements to bike and pedestrian access would be most beneficial and work to improve access and infrastructure in those areas. Focus on closing gaps in the transportation network. For example, by providing connections between important school and work destinations and nearby housing or between tap corners and.
So these 2 things fit together
Yeah,
quite closely.
Mhm.
this one kind of makes it more specific, though, saying that there's, like, fill in these gaps for these specific reasons.
Mhm. And then, and then this is sort of, filing on that, apply for state grants, for active transportation projects, including bike and pedestrian infrastructure, improved signage, bike racks and crosswalk improvements.
Do you want to, mention local motion or in there somewhere? So if they can help us. Susan Grasso's all said that, she could help find, was it,
How's that?
thank you.
This one here, this was in the last version of the plan, maintain bike paths and sidewalks year round. Provide an alternative transportation option, so the town is now committed to doing that. So I'm even wondering if it should still be in here, because it's kind of like saying. The fire department should continue to put out fires.
Yeah.
We won the
I
battle.
love
And
it.
it wasn't for us to promote it, it was given to town administration before, so it's now a reality.
So I did have a question about this one, and maybe it's nitpicky, but I've noticed that the maintenance of sidewalks and paths does not happen on weekends like roads do.
Mhm.
That's problematic because you're still treating roads as a higher priority to
But I
paths.
think that's what they said they would do, roads come first. And then on the weekend, you may have less people working.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, it might be a little nitpicky, and I'm very thankful for the weekdays because now I'm seriously,
Yeah.
because now I can walk my kids to daycare.
Mhm.
Even in the winter, which is huge, and I've been doing it all week, even when there was tons of snow earlier this
And,
week.
Yeah.
I encourage you to give that feedback to Eric, because I think he'd be happy to hear
We
it.
posted on Front Porch Forum
Yeah.
today regarding that, just that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, because
I
I think,
think he's received a lot of feedback.
yeah, I think he has.
Yeah.
I think on that specific issue with this storm over the weekend, I
Well,
noticed
because
it
when
too,
do
but-
people use sidewalks the most recreationally?
Yeah.
It's going to be on the
Yeah.
weekends, but then it sits there. The other problem is if you don't plow them immediately,
Mm-hmm.
the ice forms because people are treading on it, and then even when they plow it, they're
Yeah.
still unusable. So I realize it is like a
Well,
use.
It's a
they
yes,
really
because
do
then you have to have
that.
that ordinance that says don't tread on snow and.
Yeah, exactly, and that's.
But as far as,
It's
but as
getting
far
into the
as this,
weeds.
I think we should all,
Yes.
we should all contact Eric about that, but I think this should come out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, that's,
All right.
I'm glad other people noticed that, and it wasn't just me being like, how come the roads get plowed, but my
I'd say
sidewalk?
to be ski friendly in here too, though.
Ski friendly?
Yeah.
Now, what's the review transportation development projects and streets, complete streets? Let's see, here's your part right
Yep.
here.
Complete streets are-
It says complete streets are implemented. This includes roadway design, driveway, parking layout, and access management decisions made by municipalities and AOT. Focus on providing direct and safe pathways for pedestrians, bicyclists, reducing, providing driveways, intersecting with public roads.
It's a
Yeah,
very long sentence.
right.
It is, but there's a lot.
I could add more to it. I could say, you know,
No, I.
review of, review any new road projects or road improvements, repavings, get reviewed.
So this is on,
I mean, we can,
this is on us, right, as it says.
Yeah, and.
How likely, again, in terms of making this meaningful, how likely are we to do this?
so,
And how much power do we?
Yeah,
And-
and how
and
likely is
actually,
it to be
I made a comment on that.
followed?
Yeah.
So currently, the Energy Committee doesn't review projects that are going, that are going to DRB. So we could propose in this plan that the Energy Committee have that role as part of its official role, it being to review projects for their, energy components. And it wouldn't necessarily be every single thing that goes to the DRB, but, say there's a large residential development. You wanna review what is proposed for.
Compliance with the plan.
I
Compliance.
like that idea.
I mean, so I would recommend putting that in as a bullet, maybe, not necessarily under this, but maybe under general pathways, just putting, the Energy Committee should have a role in reviewing new developments for compliance to the goals of this plan. Yeah, something like that.
No, because transportation improvements, I mean, or just road work doesn't get reviewed normally by DRB, right?
No, I mean, right, and you have a point there.
So here, this says review
Maintenance.
transportation.
Yeah. Right, so what I mean here is, new transportation development projects.
But if it's in general.
So are we saying here just for new road, new developments, or? is
Yeah,
it-
so I would, there could be another bullet that says, and I don't think the Energy Committee is gonna really have a say in the maintenance of, of our roads and streets. Like,
Yep.
we won't get to review, every time their road needs to get restriped, but I think there could be a policy in the plan that just says when, something like when maintenance work is done, like repaving and restriping roads, they, something like, how would you word that? Striping shall accommodate cyclists,
Well, I mean, that's what we were just saying, that's feedback I think we can give through a few different groups to planning commission, like the transportation chapter.
Rather than the
I'm-
energy.
yeah,
And part of this is like, I feel like the small, I want to be meaningful and concise. Like, so if there's something that, if we're not likely, if we're tagging ourselves in to say we're gonna do this, but there's no way we're actually gonna have the capacity to do it. I like that you said in the language where there's like an option for us to come in on some of DRB when planning commission, because obviously there's a tight connection here. It's like, hey, this is an appropriate place for the energy committee to comment. I think that's great.
yeah. I mean,
How many of these projects are gonna exist outside of the growth center form-based code, which is already mandates stuff along those lines, right? And DRB review.
right, I mean, like, I guess what I'm thinking is not so much the transportation projects, because those will be highly controlled by the street specifications. But I'm thinking more like the other energy components, like the things that get promised at growth management.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
And today, like, you could comment, you could submit a public comment letter, even though you don't have an official role, you could review a project and just submit a comment letter on it. If you wanted to,
I think we should definitely add that, like you said, general pathways.
yeah.
I would personally delete 216.
Mhm.
It
I
com-
don't know.
it commits,
I like
it
it.
commits our committee.
But development review board this should be in every development review board. I keep the comment, but just take us off of it, 'cause, right, we don't have power, we don't have power.
Yeah.
So it should be part of development review. I mean, I would love to go further and say that they would review, just any update to transportation, because what's happening now with the striping on Mountain View, right, and it's the fog lines out to the end. Regardless, it's just, that's normally considered a bike safety area on the other side of the fog line. Town Works just puts it out as far as they can get it, and,
So then,
but I think that's maybe it's more than we can do here.
should Public Works be included then? As the.
Well, Public Works is the one doing it, so they should be the one
I think-
reporting to the Development Review Board.
We're talking about two different things, so
Yeah,
new development is proposed development is reviewed by the Development Review Board.
right,
Public Works, the maintenance projects get done by Public Works and they're not reviewed by Development Review Board or
okay,
any other board, they just go and they do their.
right, so this is new development, it says transportation development projects. Right, so that's what we're talking about, Development Review Board does that, but
Right,
I would love to get the other part reviewed. but I don't-
so what I would suggest for that is that you maybe not put something in here, put something in the transportation chapter, a bullet that just says. The town will, when, road maintenance needs to consider the needs of pedestrians and cyclists, striping should be done. To, whatever the lingo is, and maybe
Correct.
ask local motion,
Correct.
the right language. For
Right.
that would be,
To reduce the level
Yeah.
of traffic
just so there's a
stress
policy.
for others.
Yeah,
yes.
there's a policy in the plan that says this is how it should be done.
Right, and Town Works owns that,
Mhm.
or Public Works,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Okay,
Thank you, that's
Yeah.
great.
all right. Oh my gosh,
Can I please comment on the GMT
Chapter.
one?
what's that?
Can I please comment on the GMT?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, so we have one paragraph there about working with Green Mountain Transit, trying to get microbuses and this and that. It's a good idea. Today, GMT said they have a $2.6 million deficit. They're gonna be cutting back on
Saw that.
routes.
Well, they haven't been
They
charging.
haven't been
fares.
charging with it because they've been living on COVID money, which is
But it
all gonna
starts
come
in
to an
March.
end. And I'm really concerned. It does say town administration ongoing because we have a relationship with them. My only comment is any of this even doable or feasible, or will it ever happen unless there's a massive change in the way public transit occurs in this area? And that was my only comment.
yeah, I
It
mean,
was, it was just timely because it's in the news today.
that's a good point, and maybe. That's it, instead of and other Chittenden County municipalities and or. Because, I mean, I don't know, I don't have a solution, but maybe if municipalities work together on this. They could come up
Yeah.
with some kind of solution.
I mean, if it aren't the whole town we're building the whole town based on the growth center, and the purpose of that is to be able to hook up to a transit system where, and if you go to Essex Junction, that bus going to town gets plenty of use. The one from Williston, because it goes to,
Walmart.
Goes to Walmart.
Goes to Walmart and it goes, I mean, it's an important
Yeah.
service, although it goes to, wish it would go directly to Burlington, not to the University Mall, but. I don't think we can take this out, I think.
I didn't say take it out, I was just unfortunately looking at
Oh,
a
like
reality point that came
Yeah.
up today,
That would
which
be
is
good.
not looking very favorable for the future.
So can you say something like, other
This is
agencies or
aspiration.
entities?
Work with Green Mountain Transit and or. Other,
Municipalities or entities.
other Chittenden County municipalities, other entities.
Because Green Mountain Transit, They could come and go, I guess, I don't know, yeah,
Hopefully not.
they're looking good.
Okay.
Okay, so we've made it broader and we still throw it back on the town administration anyway, so. No, I mean.
It's so nice that we can just be like.
No, because
Agree
the
with-
town has a relationship to GMP
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's broadening the concept of it, which is fine.
Mhm.
It's still important.
Well, there was a proposed train service too, I think that's
Yes.
gone by the wayside,
Yeah.
but you never know what might
Right.
pop up.
Okay, wow, look at this. With 17 minutes to go.
That's this.
Approved.
Someone made a comment, about whether we ought to take that wood heating out.
I don't think, yeah, I don't know enough to do that. I like using a pellet stove. I feel it's sufficient as a backup to my heat pump. Or sometimes just to speed up the heating up of the house.
If this weren't Vermont,
Yeah.
I would say that, but I wouldn't consider that clean energy, potentially renewable if you source it correctly. It's not the cleanest, but given that we are working with a limited natural gas pipeline system, which has, left a lot of houses or with houses predated that even, and so they have either oil tanks or wood fired.
Kerosene.
Yeah, kerosene, the least worst supplement to electrified heat is gonna be wood.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm okay with wood.
I'm,
Yep.
I like to speak out against what is, in addition to it being, almost as bad as coal and its, carbon content. It also impacts health tremendously.
But how is it,
How about-
how is it as bad as coal if it's, it sucks carbon?
No,
as
it's
it's
Advanced
growing?
the PM 2.5 problem.
What?
The other pollutants that come out of burning. Wood. I don't think it's
that.
necessarily from a carbon perspective so much as the
Uh,
other.
particulates and all that.
Though I think
That's why I said
Maria
it's
is a
not
great point.
clean.
it's not
It can
clean.
be renewable if you do it correctly, but it's not clean by
Right.
any means.
It is probably the least, maybe Brian, I hear your point. I do think it's probably the least worst backup, right? Like the goal is to electrify heating. But in the case of needing a backup, it's
It's just a weird thing.
But I don't think we
to
should
focus
promote
on.
it as a path.
what about advanced wood heating?
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I put this comment in just because I did want to make sure it agreed with what we had already decided
that's what I was
earlier.
wondering.
Yeah. But also it is specifying the primary heat source
Primary heat source.
as.
Yeah, the last
So,
sentence.
and
In that case, if it's primary, I would just nuke the.
Yeah, me too.
entirely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cause we don't wanna promote that as the primary heating source.
Right.
It is a good backup. We're not
That's a good
gonna
point.
I mean, we
advocate
could have
people.
another line that, if you wanted to capture that, put it as a.
I mean, there could
viable
be.
Secondary or backup.
I don't,
There was, where was it, where there was an initiative, and this might, like the EPA, I think, has an initiative or money to help people like
The
switch to.
Change out.
Yeah, the
The change
change
out.
out, and we could mention that somewhere, but as far as like primary.
Well,
I wouldn't take out what you crossed out there, Melinda, but maybe if we wanted to not say 14% of homes with primary.
Yeah, we need to reconcile one.
Are we looking at this purely through a environmental lens here?
I mean, in
And there's
practicality,
an
that's,
economic
you know,
engine here.
reality is that's what's gonna happen. We're not gonna get 100% of households on heat pumps, or would like to.
No.
So, there's gonna be 14% of people who are like, I'm building wood and I'm gonna be around for another 80 years.
Well, it's gonna, I mean. I would think some of the people who are on the natural gas pipeline are gonna have a hard time switching too, because
it's virtually impossible.
it's,
Certainly, yeah.
you can do it, It's
Why would
just,
I?
why, the reason I haven't is that it just doesn't make sense. It would make sense if we were on oil.
Yeah.
Makes sense if we we're burning wood, but on the
I
natural
don't-
gas
I never-
pipeline.
I used my pellets stove way before I used my natural gas.
Oh, yeah, I'm saying, but for someone whose primary right now is natural gas, I bet we're gonna be the holdouts. Just because there are like 8 million other things I could do in my house that make more economic sense and have a huge impact. And that is one that's gonna be harder for me to switch, given how our house is designed.
Assuming the
Yeah.
same price of gas.
You
though,
would go to a
right
heat
now, I
pump
mean,
first,
isn't
you
it
would go to a heat
gonna
pump,
go up?
True.
right? You would just go to a heat pump. Why wouldn't you?
No, that's what she's saying.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The economics of going from natural gas, like, so we did it.
Yeah,
Vermont Gas came out and physically cut the line, right? We went to heat
Yeah.
pumps. It's slightly more expensive, right? So it doesn't pencil out like it does like, what's the other one?
I mean, it's gonna,
Propane and oil
Yeah.
easily pencil out in favor of heat pumps,
Mhm.
natural
It-
gas.
it's gonna take our furnace needing a replacement before we go to heat pumps is my point. Because that's gonna be where it tips the scale.
Well, that's the situation we were in.
Yeah.
We were in we've been told, within a year, your furnace is gonna die. So then we sort of, okay, we'll do
Yeah,
it.
we've got about 5 years left and then that's
Yeah.
probably where we're gonna switch. And I feel like that's gonna be one of the barriers too, is getting. So I'm wondering where that 84 versus 14 with a wood,
Well, the other thing that, the 84, you can't just put in a heat pump. You have to replace what's there already, right? Because a lot of times people put in heat pumps, but then you don't see the reduction in fossil fuel usage.
Has to be well designed and.
They have to be weatherized first.
They have to be weatherized and it has to be well designed and, the motivation a lot of times is for cooling.
Yeah. I've seen
yeah,
that.
cause
and
people
people
don't
don't
have
have-
central air.
They put in a inefficient system.
Well, yeah, that's the downside, and everyone I've interacted with that is talking about their heat pumps not keeping their house warm, they put them in for cooling. Did not buy a
Big enough.
big enough cold climate or well installed for heating specifically. The other thing, there's no timelines on this, like we have timelines, whether everything's
Well,
right, is the right one.
That's what I was wondering, cause that 84 and 14 is very specific. Did that also come down from CCRPC? So do they have timelines on that? Cause that was.
Yeah, so the timelines, I wouldn't worry too much about that yet, because it is gonna probably come down from them. And, you know, we can monkey with that.
So is all of this work from,
It's all from the old plan,
which came from CCRPC?
yeah. Mhm.
Okay, and do we, as another additional bullet to this, do we want to say we want to work with CVOC,
CDOCO.
CV, and also Green Mountain Power?
Yeah,
and-
so all this stuff is coming
It's
later, this is
Later,
just.
yeah,
the
these are
general-
local objectives, very, very high level. Then
Okay,
you gotta
and
look how.
and Efficiency Vermont. I mean,
Yeah, all
that's
that
right.
stuff is coming later.
So essentially what we're saying, we're setting the tone for the chapter and it's, we
Yeah.
wanna shift the primary heat sources. We wanna weatherize homes.
Yeah,
What's weird to me though is that 3 seems. I mean, I guess, but 1 and 3 kind of are the same thing.
yeah.
So it's almost like we want to switch primary heat sources, we wanna weatherize, and I would say instead of having 3 be specific about heat pumps, there's nothing about other efficiency measures.
Mhm.
Because there are other things, including lighting and just, there are lots of other things that we could potentially push. And I'm wondering if
Yeah.
we should highlight that in the statement above.
Lighting.
And maybe this will come up
Like, yeah,
somewhere later.
Address that.
Yeah,
Consumption side.
yeah, so that's
Yeah.
a good point, good point.
So we could even just leave it for now and say, add
Mhm.
something about energy efficiency
Mhm.
or, you know, as a third point. And then it kind of. Because we definitely talk about it down here, like doing energy audits of the municipal buildings and I feel like that that kind of encapsulates everything below a little bit better.
Right,
Okay. Yep, and the first one is actually, it's only talks about heat source. Building energy is not just heat source, it's all the other things too, so.
right, so we can put that as. an
And that's what you
additional
have, is that add other efficiency measures, great.
Yeah.
For Yeah, that would include lighting.
All other energy usage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think another thing, we covered a bit of it too, but, you know, most of the natural gas use is commercial and industrial in Williston.
Mhm.
So we can weatherize, but, you know, we should also be looking at electric boilers and, you know, industrial, and commercial solutions for, heating and.
Do we have any, like, I don't even know what we have in Williston that is, would be like industrial, like obviously like big warehouses and stuff. but-
Yeah, we got a
We
jail
got a
dynamic.
bunch.
Conversely, burns a lot of gas.
Okay,
Was
I was gonna say, anything on Brownell, anything on,
Yeah, those guys.
the
appropriate
Boyer Circle where they're doing like, with the coffee thing. Fremont Coffee.
They're moving that.
They're done, they're out of there.
They're all there.
yeah, not another month, they're moving all that, it's
We're just
consolidated.
heating those buildings, you know, and those box stores.
Can I comment on, wording on the first sentence, renewable sources, renewable. Opens a can of worms, because renewable qualifies, renewable natural gas. Qualifies biomass. Biofuels, all those which are all carbon based, are qualified under renewable. And so that just allows all those dirty,
Carbon
fuel
free,
sources, yeah,
they're carbon free
Yeah.
sources.
yeah.
well, I
With the
would
exception
caution
of-
against
would
that
you-
though. The only
Like
thing
biogas?
is that there are some,
All carbon based.
that, I would caution
That's
against
understandable.
restricting us too far on that, because
Yeah,
there
I think
are,
that's-
there are
it's
carbon
unrealistic
neutral but
world.
carbon based.
But
Fuel
we're talking
sources.
building energy, so
Yeah,
is there any, like, do we have? Is there like meaningful chance that
we just
someone
say
decides to heat
electrification.
Home Depot with biomass?
No.
Like, for energy.
Well, it's not like biomass, but it's, renewable natural gas, which is all of their stuff.
Well, why don't we just say, since we're really talking about electrification here, like shift from fossil fuels to try it to, or put an emphasis on
Clean
electrification.
electrical sources.
Well, we don't have any control over
But
a
it's-
whole lot of that,
It's
that's. gonna be
carbon,
the
but it's
grid.
GMPs.
Yes, it
We
is.
could also have,
clean.
a geothermal, which we have a bunch of buildings in the state, it goes out with 30 buildings in the state that are geothermal. So,
Well, I like just change number one, electrify heating.
Electrify the primary heating source.
Yeah.
I
it's
think
just
that's too
communication
restrictive.
would-
That's way too restrictive,
What do you mean?
because you're talking about geothermal, which is not
It's
like,
electric.
That's
Geothermal's
electric.
Yeah, geothermal.
that's not that's not the heat source. You're talking about heat source.
No, that's, heat pumps are the same way, a geothermal heat pump is just a heat pump rather than an air source, the ground source.
Yeah.
Electrify.
Yeah, you need
heating,
the
cooling.
electricity to run the water or whatever it is to get to capture the heat,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
gets exchanged.
it's not like it's electric resistance heating only.
My personal thing, I absolutely hate that we call ground source heat pumps geothermal, because they're not geothermal, they're ground source heat pumps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, what's the difference between ground source and geothermal?
in my mind,
Yeah.
geothermal, you dig super deep and you get super hot water coming up and you can do things with it.
Geothermal is anything below the surface, to me.
But the water below
There's
the.
deep geothermal.
Let's get back on track here. So we've got
Yes, it's-
electrifying.
There's a lot of good information on NWO's website about the difference between these two, if anyone's curious. I like that,
So-
electrified heating and cooling systems.
Boom, easy.
This is the whole point of shifting from fossil fuels
Yeah.
to electrifying and heating.
Right.
Or promote a shift from fossil fuels by electrifying heating and cooling systems.
You have to say a reason for it, yes,
Yeah.
so what you, yes.
So promote,
The electrification. Heating systems.
a shift from fossil fuels
Yeah.
by electrifying heating and cooling systems.
Two.
By electrifying. Does that work? Yes.
Okay, let's move on.
So then you say, weatherize 90% of the homes.
Take the wood heating out.
And then I can flesh out 3 and 4.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, so, my next, in reviewing this, as I already mentioned, whenever we mention working with, we say working with, companies and, regional planning commission or something, we should really also need to say work with Efficiency Vermont and CVOs.
What is that?
Well,
CVO.
Center Vermont Office of Economic Opportunity.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Heard it
We,
several times.
I mean, not in all cases.
Yeah, I understand.
But anyway, yeah, we'll look at that when we get to
Okay,
things.
yeah.
Well, we haven't done 3.1 yet. Up to this point, right,
No,
for previous years, so we don't have a baseline yet.
oh, 3.1, yeah. We have,
We do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do that every year.
Do you use Energy Star Portfolio Manager?
Yep.
Do you ever get it to hook up to Montreal's website?
I, yes, I tried to do that. I know you can do that.
I don't know.
No?
Every time people, I pay for it, but,
Yeah,
then it doesn't work.
it doesn't work.
Then I have to. get it
Okay, well
fixed.
then I won't do it.
Try it, it might work. It's a bit frustrating because people only try it very rarely.
Yeah.
It seems to break intermittently, so.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, I mean, if I do that, I want it to work. I don't want it to,
Yeah,
but anyway, yeah, I know I've just been doing it like twice a year. I upload data. It's not that hard. And then, you can put out a report, although I don't really like their visuals, their graphics on the report very much. I wish there was like a different platform or.
Do they give you the underlying data?
They do, yeah,
Like in a nice,
no.
okay, cause I was like, you can make your own, but
It's
only if they
not-
give it in a
It's time
nice
to make
way.
it.
it's all very, yeah.
It's like I need, yeah, anyway, but. for
So
what
in
it's
other words,
worth-
3.1 doesn't need to be changed because Melinda is doing it and she's changed it from town administration for her, where she's, yes.
Okay,
And it actually shows up, there is a summary that goes into the annual report every year. So I don't know if you noticed that or read it, but there's a summary of that as well as of the solar production, so. But I can tell you that things are not getting better. Things in terms of like energy consumption, things are getting worse, so it's not
Where's the worst coming from? Is there?
fire and police.
Okay, I shouldn't even have asked.
Well, we
Yeah.
have 9 more employees, fire department, that's a
Mhm.
jack up the energy.
So, okay,
Okay, so now,
support the schools and the
Yes.
efficiency measures. So,
because again, we don't own the school district,
yeah.
so we can
kinda hard.
support them
Mhm.
and make record and help
Yeah.
them, but we can't enforce anything.
My favorite one.
which,
It seems like there should be a representative of the energy committee at the school board to coordinate and work with them on.
Yeah, it would be good.
We can,
Their needs,
Do you-
because they're just.
We would be
Do
able
you
to
work with anyone, Melinda, with the schools
I
on
mean,
that?
I've talked to the facilities manager and the actually, somebody higher up, talked to him. Met with him once about electric school buses,
With the operating officer, right?
yes. I mean, honestly, it would be great to be able to help them and work with them, but they're like so overwhelmed that
Yeah.
like even just sitting down with somebody and chatting can be really challenging, and
it's also tricky when it's multiple towns represented on the school board, not
Yeah.
just ours.
Right.
And so we don't wanna look like we're overreaching and putting an agenda on what's all.
And that's why it says support the efforts, which
I
is
mean-
different than the original wording, which was work with.
the other thing that you could do maybe is at some point, have a joint meeting with like some of the other town, or maybe even at one of Ann Janda's regional energy committee meetings. or just meet with the Champlain School District towns and just to
Early,
talk to them about how they work with the schools. Like,
early on, when I was energy coordinator, we got together with energy coordinators of the 5 towns and
Right.
went and talked to Gene Jensen
mhm,
about what their plans are for defossil fueling.
mhm,
And, her response was that, she gets guided by the board. And the board is guided by the town, so it really goes back to the towns to impress their member to the need to work on an energy plan for the school district.
So one idea might be to invite, maybe a couple of members of the boards of the board to a meeting just to talk to them about schools and energy consumption or energy efficiency. That would be one idea. If you wanna do that.
We do a time check, 8:02. We've got a lot of work to go, and so I'll pose a question to you, Melinda, how are we in terms of not just tonight, but
Overall
overall
progress.
progress, but these are the two big
Well,
ones.
No, I mean,
These are the two big chapters for
Yeah.
us.
so, no, I didn't mean that.
No,
I meant
you got that, and
It's
you're.
true, it's
tongue in
true.
cheek, but,
Yeah,
I can go to the schedule, so April 10th, we're so I had in mind that we would, get through energy and energy education. That's 2 sections. We've just barely started the building energy section. And then next, April 10th, enhance, land use and renewable energy. And then, so this takes us through June, middle of June. If we, pushing back, then we're really into our first meeting in July at this point, or last meeting in June rather,
Mhm.
which is, be nice if we could go a little faster, because I think we're gonna need to finish this.
And we could.
Do we
get out
have,
another meeting.
do we have a lot of input or changes in citing policies? Consumption, recycling, those are smaller sections,
Yeah,
and are there a lot of changes in there? Yeah,
I
I don't know
know.
until we wade down through this.
We're
one.
very good at dragging things.
Yeah, I know. We
Well,
talk
let's
about.
strip it out.
Trying to be more
I-
efficient with
Yeah.
our meetings
It's-
moving forward, and
right.
catch up.
I think that you're having really good conversations about this stuff. I think it's really important. So, like,
Can we maybe do a quicker review? And I actually have a hard stop in another 5 minutes, but can we do a quicker review, but take notes of where we have things that we want to think about more in depth? And then once we get through everything, like review that document and go back, see which ones we still care about, because sometimes we really get caught up in the moment and think something's really important, then we're like, oh, maybe we didn't need to spend 20 minutes on that. And then review that document at the end of the review and prioritize and say, oh, actually, yeah, I remember talking about this. This is what it was about. Let's go back and like really have a good discussion about it.
Sure, go through the ones that we have consensus on and sidebar the rest of them for
Exactly.
that too.
or, yeah, or like at the beginning, just kind of go through each thing. Don't talk about anything yet, just go through them.
Yeah.
And you guys can make mental notes. I'm like, oh, and then go back and then have a,
Yeah.
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 Do a
And
homework.
I tried to do some of that on my own beforehand, but then I couldn't figure out where we had left off in here, so
Mhm.
like maybe when you send out the agenda, just remind us where.
Yeah.
Basically,
Where to
the top
pick up,
of
because I
building
could not,
energy right now.
and I know the numbering changed, but
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time going through just trying to remember where we left off.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna highlight this right here. If I can, come
Probably not if you need to.
on. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna highlight this. This is where we were. Okay, that's where we were.
Okay.
And
be
then you
helpful.
can just start from there.
Okay.
But I like that idea of just going through it. Taking some notes and then going back, and we can even do it chapter by chapter too, or section by section, like go through all of it and then go back to the high points. That we really, cause even giving us 10 minutes in between when we first discuss something and go back to it, we might change our mind on what's really important, because something else might have come up that's more
Yeah.
important too.
But you know, a lot of the stuff comes from the discussion. So you might go say, oh, I have this great idea, and then you hear someone else's point of view and what you were thinking gets modified. So I kind of like the process that we're doing it. And I don't think it's, you know, at this point, it's not completely knocking us out of the woods, schedule wise. Maybe a meeting or something, additional meeting.
And I
3
think-
times a month and we have a long month or something.
That is difficult for Melinda. I'll speak up because she's already on DRB and other planning commission and everything else.
Okay,
Well,
All right,
she's not
whatever it
technically required to come too, so we could always, as long as we have a quorum, right?
Yes.
Cause cause you've been absent at 1 or 2
Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
technically.
And we never survived that.
And it would be absent.
Okay,
Okay, well,
are we going to stop for tonight on this part?
sure.
Okay. Tomorrow's Observer will have an article on window dressers. Promoting that. We've already gotten one big order. The note from Jim.
Oh, yeah, so
Yeah.
potentially, I don't know. what it's gonna-
Potentially, yes.
Yeah,
So.
Jim.
McCullough.
Oh, yeah,
he's ordering like, he wants to order 18.
all of them.
His-
I'm like,
his-
okay,
God,
Oh,
it's-
it's like, oh, it's just-
I don't think
It's a
they're-
good candidate for it.
Yes, it is. He's a good spokesperson.
Yeah,
Stand up and promote it. So, yeah.
I'll do the
Yeah.
measurements just to get to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna stop.
All right. So I guess we are going to adjourn unless we have any other comments. Thank you for joining us again, Ryan.
Should we go